Girish Karnad, tracing Karnad's theatrical trajectory and integrated approach to his life and creativity by Jolly Das. Jolly Das writes in the acknowledgement that as I studied Karnad's plays, I was inspired by his wide reading and experience to acquaint himself with the Sanskrit theatre, Indian folk theatre, Western theatre, and works on theory related to theatrical practice. So he's a very well-read man, you see. So his was the creative self, which includes a deep concern for women, a zeal for theatre, and understanding of cinema, both as actor and director, a philanthropic attitude, and a deep interest in Indian mysticism, both Hindu and Muslim. An extremely learned person, Girish Karnad, combines a simple life with high thinking. So this is what Jolly Das has brought about in this book. So he's written a number of plays, like I've written Tughlaq. In Tughlaq, it's a sensitive ruler's painful existential awareness, where he writes about the play in Karnad, which was translated into English by the Oxford University Press in 1972. So that this is a historical source, a play from there. And it is interesting to note that there is a personal element in the play as far as this Tughlaq is concerned. He's presented in the eponymous play, eponymous, which means giving their name to something, that is the eponymous hero of the novel. So here again, this is an eponymous play as not only the Emperor of India, Tughlaq, but also as an individual torn apart between his personal and his public lives, making a futile endeavor to bring a harmony between the two. His existential crisis highlights the condition of the puny man pitted against the forces of society, which encounter him ruthlessly, even to the point of elimination. So Muhammad Tughlaq was trying earnestly to expand the empire he had inherited from his father and establish a strong administration, including a stable economy, for which he felt it necessary to shift the capital to a more centralized position in Daulatabad. The choice was influenced by the Sultan's vision of making Daulatabad, formerly Devagiri, meaning the mountain of the gods, the symbol of the bond between Muslims and Hindus, which he wished to develop and strengthen in his kingdom. This visualization was modern in the history of Delhi Sultanate, which was reputed for its intolerance of Hindus and the imposition of religious taxes like the jizya. Tughlaq's benevolent treatment to the Hindus was looked upon by them with suspicion and fear. In the opening scene, the Hindu admits, "When a sultan kicks me in the teeth and says, 'Pay up, you Hindu dog,' I'm happy, I know I'm safe." But an unexpected exhibition of compassion is accompanied by mistrust and fear, etc. And so Karnad makes wise use of his research on Tughlaq by introducing significant incorporation of Tughlaq's wide knowledge in his play. In scene 2, Tughlaq mentions two famous chess players, Al-Adli and As-Sarakhi. Tughlaq refers to astronomers like Ibn-ul-Motaz and Dur-Rumana in the same scene. Karnad makes him refer to two great Persian poets, Rumi in scene 8 and Sadi in scene 10. So, you learn a lot when even while you're enjoying the play. So the first phase of Karnad's tryst with history, particularly Islamic history, was over with Tughlaq. The second rendezvous occurred in 1996 with the dreams of Tipu Sultan. So, the dreams of Tipu Sultan, homage to a great leader. Page 99 I'm reading, where Jolidas writes that Karnad has used the opportunity to write a play for the BBC to set right much of Tipu's reputation, for which he went to the contemporary historical records by native historians. And subaltern studies prove that historical records of that period reveal that not only did Tipu oppose the increasing use of English language and culture, he also identified himself with Kannada culture. Karnad makes effective use of such historical records. The dreams provided an insight into the man that Tipu Sultan was. Karnad has selected his intriguing diary of dreams as the basic material to build a new perspective to review and understand the unique and legendary personality of Tipu Sultan, a native Indian ruler who could recognize the political crossroads he faced and his own key role, which would be significant in shaping the destiny of India. Karnad has made it quite clear in his play that the trading company of the British was a mere curtain behind which a deadly game of intrigue, duplicity, treachery and greed was unfolding, etc. So, Karnad has deftly intertwined known history, chronicle and Tipu's record of his dreams to bring to his audience a fresh assessment of a monarch who had the future stability, both political and economic, of his subjects as a sole goal of his reign. Here was a man who was attentive towards the welfare of his family, employees and subjects. Here was also a man whom some false people did not hesitate to betray for petty personal gains. So, talking about Higher Vadana, another play, the use of masks form an intrinsic part of Higher Vadana. Karnad observes that the decision to use masks led him to question the theme itself in greater depth. All theatrical performances in India begin with the worship of Ganesha, the god who ensures successful completion of any endeavor. According to mythology, Ganesh was beheaded by Shiva, his father, who had failed to recognize his own son, etc. So, the basic idea of the play rests on the quest for completion. The two friends are happy with their existence. Datta is engrossed with his studies and Kapila is happy to admire his vast erudition, etc. And the chief part of the story deals with the young and sensuous Padmini, who, discovering the several heads of an insecure and jealous husband and his rather attractive friend in a dark abandoned Kali temple, and when Padmini replaces or misplaces the severed heads, not several heads, sorry, severed heads. Severed means cut heads. The severed heads of the two men in the Kali temple on Mount Chitrakoot. She cannot see what she is doing because the temple is dark and it is night. All that the actors playing Devadatta and Kapila have to do is change the masks they were wearing. For them, the mask is the face, which is the head. So it was very easy for the audience to recognize what has happened. And the situation is comic and very serious at the same time. The rare phenomenon of coming back to life with someone else's head on one shoulder is strange and full of comic possibilities. On the other hand, the grave problem which faces the three chief characters has every chance of verging on the tragic. It is the playwright's dexterity by virtue of which he balances the two, etc. Read for yourself the plays and of course this book. Now, Karnad was a great mathematician. I mean, he studied mathematics, and he says he used that mathematics technique in his writing, that is to hold one thing constant, change the other, then see what happens. Where does it take you? Keep pushing the idea to its logical conclusion. So this is what he does in Nag Mandala. As a result, the opportunity for a dual ending is created. The study of ancient life in India reveals that Nagas were sacred beings, whom it was forbidden to touch and whose complex character made them equally feared and adored. Their aggressive tendencies were proverbial, yet they were likewise capable of coming to the aid of humans and could, like the yakshas, make women fertile. And Naga Mandala, Karnad, Girish Karnad admits, is its most popular play, right? Because you find the wonderful blending of two folk tales to create a single play. And well, this is a work of a genius whose sense of theatre, complemented by his experience in filmmaking, enabled him to control and contain the theme within the limits of accurate expression. The predicament of the common Indian women to be doomed at the receiving end of favors and or abuses is explored by the playwright in this play. However, you'll find that Karnad's deep respect for women always propels him towards according them respectability, and Naga Mandala is no exception. So we come to Bali, the sacrifice. Now, the very title of the play raises a question of the impact of Bali, meaning ritualistic sacrifice on human society. Ancient religions like Hinduism advocated sacrifice as a form of fertility ritual whereby the dead earth is regenerated by the life-giving blood of the sacrificial being, human or animal. When Jainism and Buddhism were founded, their basic premise was to counter this violence inherent in Hindu practices. This violence occupied a sort of centrality in debates on moral status. As a way of averting unpleasantness, the Hindus substitute the live animals with replications made of doughs, not clay, which would then be consumed by the devotees, since partaking of flesh of the sacrificed animal was part of the ritual. However, the debate continues because the intention and not the act is important. The performance of Bali with a dough figurine still carries all the signifiers of violence. The question that grows out of this position is that mere thoughts of violence lead to a guilty existence with no hope of salvation. So he says that Bali worried and excited me in an interview. The play begins with the Queen Amrita Mati's verse soliloquy. Amrita Mati's verse soliloquy. What is it? I'm going to read. As the world is divided into two orbs, one lit up by the sun and the other hid in the shade, so also the human soul, the inhabitation of gods, is split in two realms, one of the spirits that adore the blood and the gore, of the bright shining blade slicing smoothly through the lamb, and the other ruled by the spirits that bid you pause before you use the knife on a sapling or clap in the air lest you harm a life. Now, it's very interesting. You must read. With that, we go to another poem, that is play. Flowers, love divine and love human. So, in writing this play, Jolidas says that Karnad definitely demonstrates the basic Indian tenet of the coexistence of the essence of faith and devotion and senselessness. He may remind one of the English metaphysical poets who also expressed similar emotions in their various poems. The Shiva Linga poses various questions. The worship of the Linga is in itself a worship of the phallus. So you can find more about it when you go through the play. And as you see that he makes use of local terms and concepts in order to inculcate an indigenous ambience in the monologue. So, for example, the words are given. And many Kannada Sanskrit terms like linga, puja, arti, dhoti are retained in the text, written in italics in the absence of appropriate complementary terms in English. The local names of flowers with their own music and a special charm to the play's presentation, Karnad makes available for the priests use flowers like maligai, that is jasmine, yellow chrysanthemum, marigold, champak, firecracker. The priest says that he conducts a conversation with a linga with these flowers. Thus, using flowers as a medium of communication is his passion. The same flower serves to quench an apparently diametrically opposite passion, that of Ranga. For the priest refers fondly to her by that name. So when he decorates Ranga, he uses names of flowers like Maligai, I just read Maligai is jasmine, Parijata, that is Shafali. They have a faint, sweet, intoxicating smell, these flowers. And they have a power to induce passion in a romantically inclined person. So talking about flowers, that's why the name. Sevanti and Kanak Ambara are bright yellow and orange, adding color like the orange stem of the Parijata to the decoration with flowers. Now the interior monologue probes the split self of the priest. The answer to his quest for an understanding of his love for the linga, his life and Ranganayaki eludes him. His failure to comprehend his own strange behavior added to the folks treating him as a person with divine capabilities are unbearable for him. Torn between his inner quest and outer accolades, he decides upon suicide as the only solution to his problem. He takes stock of the entire course of events leading to his present strange position in contrast to the unrippled, mundane, stereotypical life he led before he met Ranganayaki. In the calm monologue reflecting his determination to end his unbearable life after much contemplation. So all of that. Just read that. Sometimes you learn from others, say, emotional bankruptcy or something like that, or whatever they are fighting, and you learn a lot. So another play, that is A Heap of Broken Images. It is the Broken Images is Karnad's only play in which he uses an epigraph. Now, what is an epigraph? It's a short quotation or saying at the beginning of a book or a chapter intended to suggest its theme. That's epigraph. So he uses an epigraph, that too from T.S. Eliot, who has been hailed by many critics as the most influential poet writing in the English language. The epigraph is from Eliot's most significant contribution as a poet, The Waste Land. Karnad's epigraph runs as follows. ... For you know only a heap of broken images where the sun beats and the dead tree gives no shelter. Now this epigraph reflects Karnad's deep-rooted interest in Eliot, whose influence has inspired him towards becoming a poet writing in English somewhat after the fashion set by Eliot. Eliot captured Karnad's attention because there was something similar to Karnad's experience of a changing scenario in his surroundings, which Eliot so succinctly wrote about in his poetry. Eliot found that the modern city dweller was haunted by a multiplicity of experiences which impinged on his mind like multiple voices to wake him up to an awareness of his commitments and failures. This is expressed by Eliot through the device of an internal monologue. So that's what he does. So like in The Waste Land, Eliot undertook a deeper analysis of the spiritual aridity of the modern city dweller. The form of his poem may also be said to resemble the movement of a 5-act play, advancing towards a denouement of a process of rigorous self-discipline through selflessness, compassion and control. The method of Eliot adopted for articulation of the complexity of thoughts and emotions experienced by the urban man was described by him as one moving from a dissociation of the sensibility towards a unification of sensibility. So that is it. Now, Broken Images emerges as a monologue with a difference. The speaker is split between the successful author, Manjula Nayak, and her image in the plasma screen, an innovation which calls for accurate sense of timing on part of the person playing Manjula, since her dialogues need to fit with those of the image. The play is a wonderful example of the use of modern technological gadgets in theatre. This play also enables Girish Karnad to emerge from the capsule of myth, that is folk tale history, which critics attempted to fit him in. And finally, the play does address the very important issue related to the debate over the use of the vernacular and English as a medium of creative writing. So it's nice. Like, for example, so Manjula, I'm just going to read. I'm reading from here. In a humorous digression, the image tells Manjula that her ardent efforts to finish the novel. Soon afterwards, Manjula talks about lacking time to concentrate on a book and refers to Wordsworth's famous phrase on poetry being emotion recollected in tranquility. In a humorous digression, the image tells Manjula that her ardent efforts to finish the novel in 2 weeks could qualify her for a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, adding, "Do you know the publishers of the Guinness Book say they receive the largest numbers of applications from India? We are a nation that aspires to being the world record holder in the world record holding." Think about it. So then this is Yayati, The Crisis of Self. It took Girish Karnad more than 40 years to recreate in English his first play, Yayati, a play that occupies a special place in his heart. He says that when I was about 20, I got a scholarship to go abroad, and it was very tense. It was a very tense moment because I came from a traditional family, and I was the first member of the family to go abroad, etc. And then he says that I trained myself to be an English writer, but when it really came to expressing one's tension, it came off in Kannada. And I suddenly realized that I had wasted some years of my life practicing the wrong language. And so he says it surprised me that it was a play about a myth, Yayati, from the Mahabharata. So, that's why it is like, for him it's been great. He says, the return to myth in Yayati after the two monologues, Flowers and Broken Images, was soon followed by Karnad's wedding album, a play which unearths many unsavory personal memories and investigates relationships. And read for yourself. Find out about the wedding album, the boiled beans on toast. And I think my video is stretched to many a minutes. I'm going to close it off soon. So that's Paragon International Publishers. As you see, this book has been divided into 12 chapters, each dealing with the 12 plays already written. So this book also includes an introduction, a conclusion, and 3 appendices containing an unpublished interview. So it's very interesting. It's a nice book to read. That's Girish Karnad.